This is House Education, February 18th, 2026. We are discussing H802, which adds an inflator to the census block grant for special education. I think it might just be helpful to very quickly have Legislative Council walk through this for us.
That's good. Good afternoon, everyone. John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel. I'm gonna screen share for you. Never get the size right, but that's pretty close.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, well done.
Thank you for
Better.
your. Okay, H802. This looks way more complicated than it is, but this is just adding an inflator for fiscal years 27 and onward, which had not been provided under Section 2961 of Title 16. First changes you see on the first page are just stylistic cleanup. This is non-substantive. This is just conforming to modern usage in our drafting manual. The real piece that you're going to see here is on page 2, which is updating the uniform base amount, which is a per pupil a figure effectively under which the census block grants are calculated by multiplying by an SU's long-term membership. But as you can see, if you look through the full of the uniform base amount definition, it has all kinds of transitionary measures. It was calculated in different ways at different times. I can walk through the whole of it if you're interested, but the basic thing is that you calculate an amount by dividing the average state appropriation for fiscal years 2018, 19, and 20 for special education under these specified sections. So that's standard mainstream block grants, special education expenditures reimbursement, and exceptional circumstances. And then we're adjusting those for inflation, and we have a specific NIPA inflator that we're using. The language that you see struck out at the bottom of this page applied different inflators for different fiscal years. So for fiscal years 21, 22, and 23, it referenced NIPA. I will say that technically, if you followed the language exactly as currently as written there, it would not produce, I think, the intended effect, because the annual change in NIPA, you're actually trying to get the change from 20 to 23, but it doesn't matter now that this language is struck. And then we have a different inflator or a different method of capturing the same concern for fiscal years 24, 25, and 26. This is on line 17. It just used an average inflation factor for those preceding 3 years, which had been inflated on the basis of NIPA. So you had different kinds of growth happening under these structures. And I think of these as transitionary measures effectively to get you to FY27. So the real thing that you end up with, just scrolling up and down, back and forth, the uniform base amount is that amount determined by dividing that average state appropriation for FYs 18 through 20 as adjusted for inflation by the statewide long-term membership. So that takes a statewide appropriation, divides it by statewide long-term membership, and you can think of that as giving you a per pupil, effectively, figure. The specific inflator that is added here starts at the bottom of page 2. And it's on line 20. Adjusted for inflation means adjusting that uniform base amount by NIPA. And it's the standard Title 16 inflator that we often reference, that implicit price deflator for state and local government consumption expenditures from FY20, which, if you think about it, is when that state appropriation would have been, right? You're taking the average state appropriation for FYs 18 through 20. So you want to inflate from that point to the fiscal year in which you're determining the amount. So that's what you see at the top of page 3. The inflator is the adjustment from FY20 through the fiscal year for which the amount is being determined. And then just to ensure that you get a whole dollar figure, round upward to the nearest whole dollar amount. There's also a bunch of cleanup throughout the remainder of the section. You can see at the bottom of page 3, a specified amount for the census grant for fiscal year 23. Because we've passed that year, there's no need to maintain this in statute. And you can see, and this is why I describe these as transitionary measures, on page 4, starting on line 13, it was contemplated that for fiscal year 27 and thereafter, the amount of the census grant for a supervisory union would be that uniform base amount multiplied by the supervisory union's long-term membership. And now that uniform base amount is going to build in the inflator that you've just added, that NIPA inflator. And we basically just struck any of the temporary transitional measures in the remainder of the language. I know that we sometimes do this so that people can look at the green books and see what is happening across these given years. Whenever I am asked to draft something like the statute is currently drafted, I would propose putting these sorts of transitionary things in session law, in part so that when you look at the section, you can see the logic behind it, what it's trying to get to. But sometimes there's a benefit to having these things codified. So the rest is really just cleanup. It's eliminating the off determinations for given fiscal years. So bottom of that page 4, you see a specific determination for FYs 24 through 26. And it has this idea of moving gradually their base amount to the FY 27 uniform base amount, but you didn't have a 27 inflator. Now you do have a perpetual inflator. That's what this adds. Takes effect July 1, 2026. So I hope I didn't overcomplicate something that's actually simple, but that's the explanation of the drafting. And I'm happy to answer questions.
So the overcomplication does present, why didn't this just simply say the total of the census block grant times the inflator, or one time?
Why didn't I
As
think
opposed to what is written on the bottom of page 2 and onto page 3, when it says adjusted for inflation means, and we're back to using uniform base amount.
yeah. So I think there is a policy question here as to what was intended at the time this was formed, whether it was thought that you would create a static figure or a figure that grows over time. I don't know if the legislature was taking a position on whether the figure should grow or not over time. You could make an argument that it was inflating for a given period, transitioning to FY 27, and then saying, that's the amount you've got. That's it. And you're just going to receive a census block grant on that basis. I don't know if that was the intent or not, but this is capturing the FY 27 onward. The thing that has always been, I think, the concept is the core, which is on page 4, the determination of your census grant block is what you see on lines 13 through 14. It was contemplated that in perpetuity, so FY 27 and subsequent fiscal years, no cutoff, right, forever afterward, the amount of the census grant shall be that uniform base amount multiplied by your long-term membership. So I think that was always thought of as what you're trying to achieve. And then the question is, what is the input for that uniform base amount? And if you didn't make an inflator change up here, it reads sort of nonsensically in a way, right? It says the uniform base amount is this total appropriation, this average state appropriation, increased by, and then we only describe the factors by which it's increased for this period, 21 through 26. So you could say it's not entirely nonsensical. It would just mean nothing from FY 27 onward. You wouldn't increase by anything, which would have the, to me, unintuitive consequence of producing a uniform base amount that is lower in FY 27 onward. So that's a long way of saying, if you didn't make this change.
Yeah, I think for me, it was more of a terminology
Oh, sure.
question where I was sort of conflating uniform base amount with
Census grant.
but the census block grant is the uniform base amount times.
Exactly. The uniform base amount is a per pupil. That's the way to think about it. The census grant is reflective of your student count. So the census grant is an aggregate, and the uniform base amount is the plug-in that we use to determine your grant.
And I think the inflator, I was saying, oh, why not just put the inflator on the census block grant number?
Yeah.
That clears it up for me. Thank you.
Glad to have misunderstood the question, given a lengthier answer.
Any other questions? You will be listed as the reporter. If that's okay with you.
Unless someone else wants.
I'll do it.
No, besides John.
Are people ready to vote? Okay, I'll just say that I have talked with, who it was for somebody very much in the know, who also saw this as an oversight, that there was no reason that the inflator shouldn't have been there. What's worth? Yeah.
Suggest, this is also a bit of speculation on my part. So nobody seems to really know how come this didn't get included. But, I think it's a good idea that we have things at the end so that we have checkbacks. And I'm sort of seeing this as that in a way. Like, we're now starting to looking at this now with the foundation formula and all that, this will all shift and change.
Yeah.
If we move forward in the manner in which we've got it all put in place. But in the meantime, I feel good about us doing this.
If, I think we're, gonna get an inflator report as well from JFO folks. And my dream, that's just the person who's drafting in this space, is it would be nice to have one definition in Title 16 for a generic set of inflators. You want to inflate for this purpose, you use this inflator. You want to inflate for this one, you use for this inflator. And you would basically just pull those in whenever you wanted a given amount to inflate. And it would just be so much easier to read the statutes. But that's the dream for me, which is not you guys' dream.
Pretty, well, I'm gonna say, it's not really an awe-inspiring dream, but,
My marriage world. Those are the kinds of dreams.
all right, well, if we're ready to vote, the clerk can call the roll.
All right, so are we making a motion to find S?
Yes, we are making, go ahead.
I have no idea, what is it?
802.
Make a motion that we, what's this language?
Find 802 favorable.
Thank you, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
All right.
Second on that?
If you'd like to second it, we can note that for the record. Need that. All right, if we're ready, Rep. Brady. Yes. Rep. Brown, yes. Rep. Dobrovich.
Yes.
Rep. Harple.
Yes.
Rep. Hunter.
Yes.
Rep. Long.
Yes.
Rep. McCann.
Yes.
Rep. Morgan.
Yes.
Rep. Quimby.
Yes.
Rep. Taylor.
Yes.
And Rep. Conlon.
Yes.
All right, 11-0.
All right, nothing but 11 zeros from now on.
Yes.
All right, we're getting used to it. Starting on high.
We got it out.
Enjoy it now.
We got our 11 zero out of the way.
No, it's just a band. Go on to.
Right. Oh, that's right.
It is always good.
Minute.
All right, guess we're done for the day.
Good, and on the high.
All right, why don't we adjourn until 2 and we'll be back here